Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something called syntactic movement.
It sounds a bit technical, maybe.
Yeah, it can sound that way, but it's really about why and how words and phrases seem to dance around in our sentences.
Exactly. And it's fundamental to how we understand each other, even if we don't think about it.
Our sources really dig into the different kinds of movement
Hmm.
and the principles behind it all.
Hmm. The underlying logic.
So our mission for you today, it's to help you get a real feel for these core ideas, what syntactic movement is, why it matters for sentence structure, how we interpret things all without getting lost in like super heavy jargon.
Yeah, keeping it clear and accessible.
Okay, so let's dive in. First big question. Why? Why do bits of sentences move around at all?
That's the fundamental question, isn't it? There's ongoing debate, but well, a lot of it seems to be about making sure words fill the right grammatical jobs.
Grammatical jobs.
Yeah, like being the subject or the object, or maybe movement happens to um, emphasize a certain piece of information, making sure the sentence works grammatically and highlights what's important.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, so one type of movement mentioned is O movement. What's the basic idea there?
Movement. Well, the classic example is passive voice. Think about the cat chased the mouse.
Okay, standard sentence, the mouse is the object.
Exactly. Now flip it to passive. The mouse was chased by the cat. See what happened?
The mouse. Yeah, it moved. It's the subject now.
Spot on. That movement from an object position to a subject position, changing its grammatical function, that's your typical A movement.
So it's like getting a promotion within the sentence structure, kind of. Changing roles.
That's a good way to put it. It's about moving to a position linked to a grammatical function like subject.
Got it. Okay. Then there's this other one, A movement. How's that different from A movement?
Right. A movement, A bar movement is a bit different. It often involves moving something usually to the edge of a clause, like the very beginning.
To the edge, like for questions.
Exactly. Weak questions are the perfect example. Take who ate the cheese?
Okay.
In a statement, the who part would be, somewhere else, maybe where the subject usually is. But to make it a question, who moves right to the front? That's a movement. It's moving to a position that's more about scope or discourse function, not primarily grammatical role like subject.
Ah, okay. So A movement is more internal, about grammatical roles like subject, while A movement is often about moving to the periphery, like for questions or emphasis.
You've got it. Different jobs, different landing spots.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting for me. The source talks about structure preservation. What's that idea?
Yeah, structure preservation. It basically means that when things move, they don't just land randomly anywhere.
Okay.
They typically move into positions that are sort of already available slots in the sentence's underlying blueprint. You're not creating new types of positions out of thin air.
So it's like rearranging furniture. You move the sofa to where the chair was. You don't suddenly create a new corner in the room just for the sofa.
Huh. Yeah, that's a decent analogy. You're working within the existing structural possibilities.
And are there rules then about what can move where? The source mentioned syntactic constraints.
Oh, absolutely. It's not a free-for-all. There are definite rules, constraints that limit movement.
Like what?
Well, they can get quite complex, but they essentially ensure that the resulting sentence is still grammatically sound. You can't just move anything anywhere. Different languages also have slightly different rules here.
Right, language variation. The source mentioned that too. Quick example?
Sure. So English, we love moving our waywards who, what, where to the front for questions.
Yeah, almost always.
But some languages might leave those words in their original spot within the sentence. They might use a special particle or just intonation to show it's a question without that fronting movement.
Interesting. Different strategies for the same outcome. So how does all this movement actually impact how we understand the sentence? Does it change the meaning?
It definitely affects the focus or emphasis. Go back to the passive. The mouse was chased.
Uh-huh.
By moving the mouse to the subject spot, the sentence puts the spotlight on the mouse and what happened to it, more than on the cat doing the chasing. Movement directs our attention.
Okay, so it shapes the information structure. What about this idea of reversibility? Can we mentally undo the movement when we hear a sentence?
That's a really interesting theoretical question. Some linguistic frameworks, particularly in generative grammar, propose that our mental grammar does work with an underlying structure.
So we kind of reconstruct the original.
Sort of. The idea is that we compute the meaning based on that underlying structure and how things moved. Whether we consciously undo it is debatable, but the concept helps explain how different surface structures, like active and passive, can relate to the same core meaning.
Right. And finally, minimalist frameworks came up. How do they fit into this picture of movement?
Minimalism, as a theory, tries to find the simplest possible explanation for language. From that perspective, movement isn't just some optional add-on.
No.
No, it's seen as a necessary operation. It happens because certain grammatical features need to be checked or satisfied, and movement is the mechanism the grammar uses to do that. It's fundamental.
Okay, wow. So let's quickly recap. We've got a movement, often about changing grammatical roles, like in passive sentences,
Hmm.
and a movement, often shifting things to the edge for questions or focus, like with who or what.
Exactly.
And all this happens within certain limits, rules, constraints. And it varies a bit, language by language.
That's a great summary. And the key takeaway is that this movement, even though it feels abstract, is constantly happening under the surface. It's essential for the sheer flexibility and expressiveness of human language.
So what's the final thought for you, the listener? Well, pay attention to word order. Think about how saying pizza, I like, feels slightly different from I like pizza.
That emphasis shift.
Exactly. And the next time you ask a question, starts with who, what, or where, just notice how that word has jumped to the front. It's all syntactic movement in action. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Now, here's something to chew on. How does the specific word order in a question, compared to a statement, signal precisely what kind of information you're trying to get?